Welcome to Homework Lib.
10 boys and 12 girls decide to rent a 16-passenger van and a 6-passenger car to drive to a rock concert in a nearby city. If the group is distributed randomly between the vehicles, what is the probability that there are no boys in the car? Well, to have no boys in the car, all 6 passengers in the car must be girls. The probability of the first passenger being a girl is going to be 12 of the girls out of the 22 total. The second passenger being a girl, assuming the first one is a girl, would be 11 out of 21, and then 10 out of 20, and then 9 out of 19, and 8 out of 18, and 7 out of 17. Calculating this, is about 0.0124, or a 1.24% chance of happening. To have no girls in the car, all 6 passengers in the car must be boys, and the probability of the first passenger being a boy, since there are 10 of them, are 10 out of 22. And then provided that one's a boy, then there are 9 boys left out of the 21 left, and then 8 out of 20, 7 out of 19, 6 out of 18, and 5 out of 17. Which calculates to about 0.0028, or about a 0.28% chance of occurring. For C, the probability of Steve being in the van is going to be 16 out of 22, because Steve is a boy, and that's 16 out of the 22. Well, actually, the way we would read that Stephen and Susan are both in the van, and it's a 16-passenger van. Then there's 16 out of 22 people. That would be his probability, and the probability of Susan being in the car, assuming Steve is in the van, would be, oh, I'm sorry. The probability of Susan being in the van, assuming Steve's already in the van, would then be 15 out of the 21. And that is about 0.5195. A 51.95% chance. And finally, the probability of Steve being in the van is 16 out of 22. And Susan, it says either Steve or Susan are in the van. And the probability of Susan being in the van, assuming Steve is in the van, is 6 out of 21. So the probability of Susan being in the van, assuming Steve is not in the van, is going to be 16 out of 22 times 6 out of 21. So the probability of either Steve or Susan being in the van would be 16 plus 22. That would be the probability of Stephen in the van plus 15 out of 21, the probability that Susan is in the van. Actually, I think we would treat them independently. Um, Another, like, if we just treat Susan independently, then she has a probability of 16 out of 22 of being in the van as well. But then we have to subtract the probability that both of them are in there. That Steve and Susan are in the van would be the 0.5195 that we have to subtract. So that comes out to 0.9350. That either of them are in the van.